Hello there. Welcome to the KMS wrap up show for June 15th, 2022. Today's episode was Riggs, in which Riggs of the Foreplay Pod joined the show in studio for the first time ever. It was a different episode. It started off, with a lot of golf talk, but slowly kind of Riggs got more into think questions he had about the show. Is asking about Carano, talking about Dave's homophobia, his plans for the future with Barstool and what he wants to his brand and foreplay to become. I am joined today by Sean. Sean reached out to me. He did a wrap up show in early 2021. He reached out to me today. He's like, "Hey, I'd love to do it again." I said, "I'd love to have you." And so Sean joins me today. Sean, how you doing, my friend?
Good. How about you, man?
I'm doing great. I just got back from Milton's. Listened to the show on the ride back. Was
I
very
bet you're
funny.
gonna get some shit about that. Did you take a lot of clothes?
I don't think I took a lot of clothes. I thought we had. I don't want to get too much into it. I don't. Maybe I did.
I
Uh,
bet you did.
I don't think so, but I'm sure we're going to get into that tomorrow in regards to everything. So like I said, the show started off today. Riggs of the Foreplay Pod, Kirk kind of did him a favor. Went to his Wilbur show on Monday, had a good time there, busted some balls, told some jokes, just talked golf with him and Kisner, their PGA friend over there. And so Riggs, since he's in Boston for the U.S. Open, fan of the show, decided to reach out, say
Did
I'd
you
love to
just
come to the
burp?
studio. No, I moved the mic.
I thought you burped.
No, I moved the mic. Um, so decided to come out, uh, come in studio. It's always good to get like a barstool guy, especially in studio. It's so rare to get someone in studio. I think like really the only other barstool person who's been in that chair is Ryan Whitney. So I think people had high expectations. People love the Ryan Whitney episodes, and because Whitney's like so invested into it, the first thing Whitney does is he comes in and he just starts like ripping on Dave for being annoying on Twitter, and all he does is talk about COVID. So I think people were kind of expecting that. A little different we got today. Riggs kind of comes in. He does it started off with I think this is just going to be how like every single guest starts off the show is talking about how weird it is how Kirk just comes in, sits down, literally says two words. He's like, "Okay, we good?" And then Dave goes, "Yep." And then Kirk shuffles the papers around, shuffles the ads a little bit, and then he starts talking. And I guess I mean it's all I know in the world of podcasting, so it's not weird to me. But whether you're a professional like Riggs, who hosts a huge Barstool Sports podcast, or you're an amateur like Montante, I guess it is weird just to have to come in and not even say, "Hey, how's it going?" Just kind of, just get going. So I don't know. I don't know if you have any takeaways from Riggs' lack of what he thought was hospitality from Kirk to start the show.
I just think he was kind of worried about what Kirk was gonna say. Like when he comes in firing like bullets, I
Yep.
think Briggs was a little bit worried, like based on what they had talked about before. When the Barstool Radio they had obviously had like numerous disputes, and like Briggs was kind of soft then. And I think in the beginning he was a little bit worried about like what Kirk thought about everything. Like I don't think he wanted to step on his toes too much.
Yeah, definitely sounded like that. I definitely think that he was looking for Kirk to kind of like break the ice when it
Like
comes.
take the lead.
Yeah. So it's and say hey and like, oh hey, how's it going? Like, oh good show on Monday or
Right.
something. Yeah, but Kirk's literally just I feel like it doesn't matter who's in that chair. Kirk wants to save it for because he doesn't want something funny to be said or some dispute to be solved off the air. He's big on doing things on the air, and I think that's just weird to people like Riggs. And it's funny to hear him talk about Riggs obviously coming from New York, and they had the Barstool Radio studios where there's these murals behind them, and all these different producing, like everyone's everywhere, and there's all these different like murals and paintings and promos everywhere. And then he goes in here and he's like, "Wow, this is really it. This bleak, depressing, depressing studio and on the second floor of Watertown." But he did seem to love the Milton's picture. So that was good. But yeah, Kirk
I
kind
think
of just
yeah.
yeah. Kirk just
I
kind of
think
had.
he honestly, I think Riggs a little bit was more comfortable in like the New York setting as far as like when he didn't know who Kirk was, like shooting shots as towards Kirk until he realized exactly what he was about. So I think now he knows exactly what he's about and stuff. But I mean, as far as like the like what it looks like in there, I think Riggs shooting that shot. I mean, his first New York studio when he first signed with Barstool in like
Yeah,
2017. I mean, it was shitty as hell. So I think that was more just like poking fun. But I think overall, I don't think he realized that like I think he was a little worried about how far Kirk is gonna like poke him.
yeah. Your mic sounded a little bit robot-y. If you could just try to, I don't know, just try to disconnect it and then reconnect it real quick. I just, yeah, and I think, I mean, as much as like people were saying, like Ryan Whitney is more, I would say more like, Kirk says Riggs is a friend. It is kind of a new friendship in it, and I think Riggs has seen Kirk turn on people at Barstool before. So I definitely think that he kind of came in here with more of like a, he didn't want to go like full gas pedal. He kind of wanted to ask some questions and kind of get things rolling. But there was a lot of golf talk. There was more golf talk than I would have expected. They were talking, Freddie Couples versus who's the Irish guy, Rory McIlroy, things of that nature. And I mean, it sounded like, I mean, Kirk can talk golf. I'm not a golf fan. I have no idea what's going on with any of that, but it's good to hear just the passion that they both have. Like, I didn't know Rory didn't win a major in the past 6 years. I thought he was winning majors left and right, but here I am, egg on my face. There was a couple other funny segments today. Opened up. Kirk was like, "Do you have any questions about the show?" And it's funny to hear Riggs, who he said he started listening to the show about a year ago when Cullinan started, when he was on the road and things of that nature. It's fine. The mic sucks. The mic sucks. It's no big deal.
Yeah, Mike sucks right now.
It's okay. To hear him say like, "Who's Carano?" and then to have like Kirk, it's like, it's just funny from someone's perspective who has followed the show and been a part of the show for years, just to hear like, how do you explain who Carano is? How do you explain who Steve Robinson is to people? It's so difficult to, and it was interesting to hear, Rig's take on like, oh, it's cool to like hear you guys talk about something, and then you go back and you like watch a prequel to things when they go and mention things. It's kind of what's nice about having probably going on 550 episodes now of the Kirk Minahan show. There's so much more backstory that you can go to. So.
No, for sure. How much do you think Riggs actually listens? Do you think he listens daily?
I think he listens daily.
It didn't seem like that.
You don't think so?
No, I didn't think so.
Oh, maybe I got the impression he listens daily. I've seen him interact on Twitter before with the show about certain things. I don't think it's as soon as it drops he listens sort of thing, but I think by the start of a week he's all caught up on the previous week. That's
right. I think he listens to like the big issues going on, like maybe just going like hour by hour, like certain issues. But I didn't get the vibe that he listened every single time.
Maybe. I think, I mean, it's difficult. He's a busy guy. He's going back and forth. He has all these different podcasts and Foreplay's a fucking monster. He's flying all over. I think he said he's going
he's busy.
to New Zealand and doing all this other stuff. So it's interesting. I haven't seen anyone say that they don't think he's a full-time listener, but that very well could be true. A couple other things from today's show. There was this weird, like, Rico Bosco. Rico Bosco apparently reached out to Dave and Kirk and said he wants to get some sort of little leaguer on, or little league ump guy on, and he wants to do it on Kirk's show. And it's like, it's just weird, like, to be like, hey, this is how I think, Kirk, I want to do this segment on your show. I mean, it's no one else's show except for Kirk. I don't think Rico was trying to put that. I do think that the clip of Kirk saying like, I'm not ready to say fuck Rico Bosco or anything like that, but it's definitely in the ballpark, in the parking, is definitely interesting because, I mean, I think the relationship with Rico has been good with the show. I mean, I know the show's had a couple scales on, whether it be Clemmer or Montante, and I know I don't have the best relationship with Rico right now, and I'm trying to mend that. But it would be interesting to see what would happen if Kirk and Rico. Not saying I want this to happen if Kirk and Rico did decide to kind of have a quasi war together.
Yeah, he could never come to Boston every time though. I mean, he has said numerous times, like when New York is done, when Big Cat goes to Chicago, he's going to work at Aeropostale. I mean, so I think there's 0% chance he comes to Boston to do any shows. But also, I think Rico is being a little. And like I said, I'm a rider. Like I'm a rider, so I die.
As we all are.
I mean, I know you are as well. You're a rider. But I think he's being a little unrealistic as far as his expectations.
Yeah, so I think interesting to see where that goes and where that develops from there. A couple other things. The part of where they were talking, Joey and Pat were with the guy from Bravo, the reality star, and this kind of spun off of Riggs talking about Dave being homophobic, and to hear Kirk say things like, "Dave, would you sleep with Joey to prove you're not that? Would you sleep with Joey to prove you're not a homosexual?" And Dave was just like, "No, I don't know. Just talking with Dave about homosexuals is just funny because he always seems to dig himself a giant ditch."
Yeah, I think Dave's a lot like Mike Pence. Like they're obviously very straight. Like they would never. Mike Pence, obviously, he doesn't want to be in a room with any women. And that's just because he's just so straight. I mean, he doesn't want to influence his reaction at all. So I think they're very similar. I think Dave is like the Mike Pence of the Kirk Minahan show. So I mean, I think that's very fair. And like I said, they're just so straight. I mean, they fucked so many pussies. They don't even think about dick.
That's right. If J Rock smashed 5, Tully smashed 25. So,
right.
But yeah, I do think that like introducing that Joey character into the world would be great. I think he would be a great Thursday guest if he ever comes to Boston again. I know he's just in Boston for a Wilbur show with Snooki.
I think he'd be a great trivia guy.
You think he'd be a great trivia guy? Could you see him
replacing? A great one.
Could you see Pat going to the front office and moving?
Yeah, I think that might be. I think that honestly might be Pat's first front office move. It's like Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens was the coach last year, and he goes to the upper office. You know what I mean? He goes to the front office and he makes some moves, and they're in the finals. I think that's exactly Pat's role right now. I think he goes to the front office. He signs Joey, who's gay, like Pat, but has a little more pop culture knowledge than Pat.
Yeah, we'll see. I just think he's a character, and I think he knows how to play along, and I think he would fit great into the KMS universe. So I think that would be something interesting. Kind of the last thing, kind of like Riggs needs to talk about golf and ask questions about the show, and it's always good to kind of just go over things with And it was good to hear because Riggs was on the Dave Portnoy show yesterday, and to hear him say like, "Oh, I was talking to Carabas." I definitely think he listens to KMS more than you would think. I definitely think he's probably he did say at Foreplay it's one of the only podcasts he regularly listens to, and like he knows like who I am and who Dave is, so he definitely doesn't just know. I don't think he's to like the big episodes where maybe he had Kirk attacks Ellie Schnitt or someone like that. To kind of wrap things up, the show kind of ran a little late. We were supposed to meet Bill at Milton's at 12:30. It took a while for Cullinane to upload the podcast because we had to go to Milton's and do all that fun jazz and then grab lunch. So it took a while, and I did see some heat was going around on Twitter, and Kirk wanted to make sure that no one was tweeting out #Fire Cullinane. Sadly, a lot of people who are just hate the show decided to tweet out hashtag fire Cullinane. And I believe the highest I saw was 7 on trending. So it did trend for a little bit. It was kind of, I saw people reaching out to like Whitney about it and other things. So we'll see where all that what happens with that. I know Kirk was highly against it. He thought it was very inappropriate for people to be tweeting that out.
Just point blank right now. So if you had your job right now with either producer, would you rather it be Steve or would you rather it be Dave?
Oh, Dave.
Is that true?
Yeah, I love Steve to death. I would love to work with Steve. I don't know if Steve would ever have an associate producer.
No, but that wasn't the question though. I'm saying if they both loved you the same, which one would you love more?
If they both loved me the same, like I don't think I think Dave gives the opportunity for me to be in studio as an associate producer. I don't think I would have gotten that opportunity with Steve, which isn't a bad thing.
That wasn't the question though. If they both gave you the same opportunity and they both loved you the same amount, who would you rather work for?
Probably Dave. Probably Dave. No offense to Steve. Love Steve to death, but we'll see. But I mean that's sadly it's not a choice.
Yeah, sadly,
I see people saying today that Steve would have had it up by 11, which would have been very impressive, seeing as how the show didn't finish recording today until about 12:20. But yeah. So looking forward to tomorrow's show. It's going to be certainly interesting. Mike's going to be in studio. Greg Poehler is going to be in studio. I haven't heard or seen much of Greg Poehler. I know he's very well versed in the show. He's someone who does listen every day. He even sounds like he listens, like he's waiting for the drop, like in a second. So it'll be good to have him in studio. He probably has some stories from over in Sweden. We have the Miltons recap. I took too many clothes. Apparently, I took more clothes than even Dino did, and Clark said that Dino famously would throw clothes.
I called that in the first minute.
You called what in the first minute?
I knew you took too many clothes.
Apparently, I didn't think so. I don't think so, but I've been wrong before. So,
one quick question. So, and not even a question, really. Just don't you agree with this? So, the Clemmer experience, the at a theater near me, shouldn't it have been like a decade experience? Like, shouldn't it have been a thing where, like, when he got stopped by COVID, he should have just kept trucking until he made it a year? Like, it should have been like 10 years going until he made it a year. Like, I was shocked by him stopping that so soon.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you heard it here. Sean's calling Chris a quitter. It's not necessarily something I disagree with, but it's coming from Sean's mouth. So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, probably. He probably should have kept it going, but he didn't. He didn't want it to move on.
But that could have been a 5-year program.
Probably.
Like, just until he makes it a year.
Probably, but it wasn't. But
it certainly wasn't.
But yeah. Also, like, tomorrow is the last show for at least 2 weeks. We'll see when the show is back. I know Barstool's off the week of July 4th, so I don't know if Kirk's going to want to do a show on that Monday, which is July 4th, or Tuesday. I know we talked to Mike today.
I would guess no.
Mike's around. I would assume that there's going to be at least one show that week. I can't assume. I would be very surprised if Kirk goes 3 weeks without a show, and then bam, suddenly week of the Wilbur, back of the show. And also, you got to remember the week of the Wilbur will also be in the Hamptons for the mini golf tournament. So, but yeah, looking forward to tomorrow's show. Should be interesting. Milton's recap, lunch recap, and all that fun jazz. So, anything else you want to say from today's show? We're looking forward to tomorrow's show.
No, I think that's it. Honestly, I think Riggs is a great. I wish he was in Boston. I think he'd be a great like Wednesday edition or whatever day edition, but it's just not realistic.
Perfect. Okie dokie. Well, thank you to Kirk. Thank you to Riggs. Thank you to Dave, and we will talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you, Sean.